the chasing the pump and doing light weights for high reps is a myth. It gives you a temporary swellness in muscle. It doesn't create lasting muscle size. And so it became very, very clear as you train too much, as you do lots of sets, as you do tons of workouts, as you're in the gym all the time, you're breaking your body down and it's very hard to get stronger. Your body grows and recovers and builds when you're resting, not in the gym. So once you have that stimulus, the correct thing to do is what?
Fitness influencer, entrepreneur, and a guy that's changed the beliefs on how to build a movie star physique. Today's guest on the Frankie Lee podcast is Gallagher. What led you to know that that was your internal why, was the fitness piece?
When I was a kid, I played lots of different video games and I loved the idea of leveling up. So in the gym, you just level up. I mean, when you're a teenager, you're like, can I really do this as a job? My entire family and network was telling me, knock it off with this fitness thing. Go back to school. For me, it was very, very clear. If I wanted to achieve success, I had to do it myself. I wasn't getting handouts. If you're willing to work harder than anyone else, you can have whatever you want.
What would you actively say is the best way to do that?
The first thing is you got to get your mind and body right. It's hard to transform and achieve big goals when you don't feel good. And so you have to get yourself in a great position. That means sleep has to be solid. Nutrition has to be solid.
You're training and lifting 3 to 4 days a week, and then there's fasting. Can you walk me through a structure of how everyone listening to this can start to implement these things and why they should implement them?
The most powerful thing to achieve your goals is having a...
Guys, before we go into this podcast is sponsored by contentremoval.com. If you're looking to remove any images, videos, search results, fake accounts, or anything else online, go to contentremoval.com. We've looked after everybody from the likes of Alex Hormozy, Kayla Racines, Tammy Hembrow, to a whole host of other brands and celebrities that you know and love. And we'd love to help you with your issues online. So if you have any issues online and you want to get in touch with us, click the link below this video and go to contentremoval.com.
Gallagher, welcome to the show, my brother.
Thank you for having me on, my man.
Mate, honestly, I've been excited for this one. I know we've cooked this podcast on 2 dinners already, so I'm ready to absolutely dive in today with you. I want to give people an insight into your first step into fitness and growth on social media, because obviously you blew up super fast over a period of time. I want to understand what made you like attracted to the fitness industry and specifically blowing up in that niche.
Yeah, so I mean, I have to kind of take a step back. When I was very, very young, I had this very strong interest in fitness, the realization that you can gain muscle, you can improve your health. Like, I discovered this at 6 years old. At 6 years old, I wondered, why is this person strong and jacked and this person's out of shape? And my father told me, you have to work out. You eat right, you can transform how you look. That planted a seed, how much power we have over our life, and the idea of not taking advantage of that, to me, was crazy. And there was a choice, a decision I had to make as a teenager about what path I wanted to go down. My father was in real estate and became incredibly successful in real estate, built the biggest private-owned real estate company in Canada. And when I was young, I thought I would work for my father. He passed away. And so he passed away when I was very young. So I had to kind of make the decision. Do I go down this real estate path on my own? And it was clear to me that I had to go and pursue where I was most passionate. I didn't care that much about real estate. What I cared about was fitness, the idea we could become more fit, strong, powerful. And so at 19, I started my approach to fitness.
What led you to know that that was your internal why, was the fitness piece?
It was honestly so clear. At 14, 15, I remember going on some vacations with my family, and I would go and do like pull-ups on a tree. I'd be working out. It was just such a high value for me. And I was an athlete. I played sports. I played hockey. I did rugby. I did, jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, and boxing. And I was just more drawn to the workout than the actual sport. I thought the workout was more fascinating. The idea of coming to the gym, lifting more weight, improving your physique, improving your strength, your fitness. And so the idea that we can just improve our strength was just extremely fascinating to me. And I got so, it was like a video game, right? When I was a kid, I played lots of different video games and Diablo and all these different games. And I loved the idea of leveling up. And so in the gym, you just level up. And it became sort of my strong passion. Like it was so clear that it was like a strong passion. But I mean, when you're a teenager, you're like, can I really do this as a job? Is this like, can this really become a job or a business? And I ended up just being like, you know what? This is what I love doing. I'm going to figure it out.
Do you think watching your dad growing up and the key skills of seeing him win in real estate, do you think he subconsciously taught you a lot of the skills that you've applied to fitness?
Absolutely. Yeah. The number one thing I would say that I learned was just this sense of self-belief. If I have a goal and I'm willing to put in the work, I will achieve the goal. Most people don't have that. They don't get excited to pursue a goal because at the back of their head, they're like, it probably is not going to work out, or this is not realistic, or this is not possible. And so I had this strong sense of self-belief. And that was my father taught me when I'd play hockey, at school. Like, if you put in the work, you'll get the result. That was it. There was nothing else. If you're willing to work harder than anyone else, you can have whatever you want. There's always a solution. There's always a solution to the problem. Write down your goals, work hard. It was this sort of ambition and drive that was drilled into me. And it wasn't just him saying it was him living and breathing it.
Did he turn it into a process for you? So you're talking about there writing down your goals, and he's getting you to vision your goals. So is he teaching you a set process that you've followed religiously day by day?
So he passed away when I was 11. So I've more or less put the pieces together. One of his favorite books was Think and Grow Rich, right? And I read Think and Grow Rich. And, you know, interestingly enough, like a huge inspirational person to me as well when I was in my teenage years was also Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee gave a lot of credit to the book Think and Grow Rich, and he had his definite chi fame. And so my father really, he really liked the book Think and Grow Rich, but he was almost like, this was almost like natural to him, this way of thinking and setting goals and being ambitious and taking responsibility. Like this was just almost natural to him. It wasn't something where he had to like learn it, but he just kind of embodied it. And I've always sort of, like, that's been the number one thing. When I feel frustrated or things aren't going the way I want, or I feel stuck, I write and I problem solve and I set goals. And I kind of create solutions. And it's been like a incredibly powerful skill set. And it's crazy how strong it is. Like when you write goals down, when you put, not even just on your phone, but like pen to paper, you write things down and just doors start to open. If you're looking for, sometimes I'm like, I need to get a very, very specific hire and nothing's happening. I just write down exactly what I want and then boom, you know? I've done this where if I was single and I wanted to manifest a girlfriend, and months would go by, I would meet women, I wouldn't feel the connection. I would just write down exactly what I wanted. And then 3 weeks, it's like, how did that, like, it's like this incredible power. And, you know, when I was 23, I was at like a critical point. I was about 23. I was at a critical point in my business where, you know, it was doing very well. We were doing, you know, low six figures, and I was getting a lot of like a strong following and getting a lot of respect in fitness. And I was, you know, my father had this sort of quote, make no small plans. Like this was that was sort of his motto, right? He was, you know, there was a famous, there was a famous architect, right? And you know, it was kind of built off that, make no little plans, because small goals don't have the power to stir a man's blood, right? No one wants to work hard to drive a Volkswagen Jetta. No one wants to work hard for, you know, mediocrity. So in some ways, you're more likely to realize a bigger goal because that gets your juices flowing. That turns on your dopamine. And so I was at this point, and I was in Mexico, and I was, you know, I was on a vacation, and I was thinking about all my goals, and I was like, hey, with no chance of failure, what do I want to achieve? And I wrote down about 10 things. Some of them were financial, some of them were not. And these were goals I wanted to achieve in 2 years. I was 23, I wanted to achieve this by 25. And I had it in a book. I put the book away. Like I went home, I put the book away, and a couple of years, not even, like a year goes by. I was 24, and I find this book, I'm looking through it, and I'm just seeing goals to achieve by 25. I'm looking at it, and I'm 24, and I achieved them all. And I was like, what? Like there's a magic to writing goals down, but you almost and this is why it's almost powerful when I was in Mexico, right? Because you're in your environment and you have your way of thinking and your thoughts kind of loop. When you can leave your environment, you go somewhere where you feel free and open, you have a feeling associated to writing these goals down. You feel something. And the sign of a correct goal is a goal that makes you feel good. It makes you feel almost excited.
Lights you up inside.
It lights you up inside, right?
Yeah.
And so that I felt it, and I never looked at those goals again until a year later, and they all happened. And I remember I had someone in my life that was pretty successful, and I think I mentioned a couple of these goals, and I'm like, there's no way it's going to happen. Be realistic.
That's what they said to you.
They said that to me. It's not going to happen. Be realistic. And it happened a year earlier.
That's literally a crime. When people speak that over your life, that disempowering belief, I've had many of these people in my life, you have to just let them go. No matter how successful they are on the external, they are actively trying to hold you back from your greatest self in that moment, whether they realize it or not. And you've almost got to pattern interrupt those people and say, hey, I don't accept your framing of that. Don't do that again. That's not cool. Or if you let them continue that, they'll just keep belittling you essentially and keep putting you back. Because you think about how easy it is to take on someone else's opinion as fact. Now you've just manifested your own slumber, because you manifest both ways. People don't realize this. But if you were going to give people like the real, we were talking there about getting a real dialed purpose and a real dialed internal why. If you were going to give people a few tools and routes and steps to do that, what would you actively say is the best way to do that in a step-by-step process?
The first thing is you got to get your mind and body right. It's hard to transform and achieve big goals when you don't feel good, right? So a lot of people, they're not getting the correct amount of sleep. Their sleep is off. They're binge drinking on the weekends, and they're hungover, and they're smoking weed, right? They're on their iPhone and they're scrolling the algo, and they're just doing everything to disempower their dopamine system. The most powerful thing to achieve your goals is having a very strong, well-run dopamine system. This is your work-reward pathway. When it's operating and firing correctly, if you see the people that just fucking succeed, they just take massive action, they just go after the goals, they're motivated. They have a very strong dopamine system. The people that can't find motivation, right? They can't find motivation, they've broken down their dopamine system through, negative thoughts, bad behaviors. And so you have to get yourself in a great position. That means sleep has to be solid. Nutrition has to be solid, right? You have to keep alcohol to the absolute minimum. And you have to have a solid routine where you're not scrolling the algo. You have control over your mind. You start your day strong. You take action. Once your mind is right, then all this stuff is powerful. But if someone is just smoking weed and drinking alcohol, hungover, bad sleep, none of the advice I can give is enough to combat that. Like, you have to get yourself in a strong place. When I think back when I was 19, I was starting my business, and there was a lot of that pushback of like, this is never going to work. This is like, get realistic. This fitness thing is, you're accustomed to this high-end lifestyle. Being a personal trainer is not like, I was getting all the negative force you could imagine, right? I didn't really drink. I worked out. I had my sleep routine. Social media wasn't really a thing. I think it would have been a lot harder for me to become successful if social media was a thing. You didn't have that outlet you didn't have that temptation. You woke up, you just would get work done. And so once you have this is like the most important. Once your mind is firing correctly, then you have to really get into a new environment. Get out of your normal place, especially maybe you're living with a negative roommate, family, whatever. Maybe, you're in the same apartment where you've had the same thoughts, same rut. Go somewhere fresh, whether it's a park, walk somewhere, have a coffee, get sunlight, just get into a new environment, and then audit your life. Where am I right now? What is not going well? What is going well? If I had no chance of failure, we have one life here. You owe it to yourself to make it count. No chance of failure, what would I want to do? Okay. Do I need to get a mentor? What do I, just identify that goal. And then it's like, and then some people get really demotivated, right? Because oh, this is so far. How am I going to get here? How am I going to get here? It's just one step at a time. How do I get 1% closer? What's the first step I need to take? Maybe it's I got to test something and make a mistake. Maybe I have to. It's like when you break it down into one little step, it's the beauty of it, right? Is that imagine you have two different people, okay? One person, they make a step towards their goal and they think, and this is most people, think, I still have so far to go. Oh my God, this is going to be like, we're so far away, or I'm only lifting the 10-pound dumbbell. I want to get to 50s. I'm so far away. How am I ever going to get there? The other person is like, hell yeah, we made 5% progress. We're getting closer. This is what actually empowers and trains your dopamine system in a positive way. It's like going through a video game and getting to level 2 and being like, oh, we still have so far to go. That's not the point. You want to enjoy the process and revel in the small wins. And so when you can do that, like the universe opens up to you. When you have when you're enthusiastic about the journey, and you have a goal, a vision you want to realize, you're enjoying the journey there, you're patting yourself on the back along the way, we watch why do we watch movies, right? Every single movie has essentially one thing in common. You have a main character that very early into the movie is hit with a huge conflict. We enjoy watching movies, yet when it happens in our own life, we complain and we victimize ourselves. And so when you can revel in the small wins, when problems happen and you get excited to solve them, you turn on your problem-solving brain, then life opens up. And I was hanging out with someone a couple weekends ago that had a lot of ingredients to become successful. Was smart, was athletic, was charming, but every time things would go wrong, he would wallow. Why is this happening to me? Maybe I'm not meant to be successful, right? That's not productive. That self-wallowing, I've seen this a lot, that self-pity, self-wallowing, questioning things, trying to understand the deeper, it's like, hey, look, this is just life. There's a problem, solve it. Don't fall into this self-wallow, self-pity. Get excited to solve it. Get excited to like, hey, how do we navigate this? I mean, and there's a point that will happen, right? When you have the right mindset and you work extremely hard, right? There's a point that will happen when you achieve a lot. And it's like, hey, what else is there now?
Yeah.
Like once there's a thing that happens when you go from making 50K a year to 100K to 200K to half. And like once you get to a certain level, making more money it's not as powerful. It's not as exciting, right? Once you can go out, buy a nice steak dinner, you're living in a cool place, you can go and take a girlfriend or go to a beautiful hotel. Like once you're doing these different beats, what else is there? You can only drive one car at a time. And so you're like, if someone's at that starting point, you are in an amazing position to start to experience, right? The excitement of making more money, the excitement of leveling up. And so I remember feeling that, right? And so now it's like, hey, cool, you make more money. It becomes more of a game, right?
I think when I put my first 100 grand in the bank, clean money, paid the taxes, done it, I'll never be able to recreate that feeling again. Because no amount more money than that will ever take me from the point where I was there, where I was like, okay, I need to find a way out of this job and work in this sales role into this online business, and then that's your first 100 grand.
How old were you?
27.
27, nice.
27.
This is 10 years ago.
So yeah, so like literally like 9-10 years ago.
So yeah, and 10 years ago, 100K was a little more exciting.
Yeah, but the feeling I had, because I was in a foreign land, I was in Australia, I'd moved from England to Australia, the feeling I had of like this feeling of accomplishment, nothing will compare to that, because that basically took me from what was equivalent in my life to poverty to being able to like, okay, now I'm in the position where I can start paying down my mortgage, where I can start achieving these goals that I've written down, pay off my mortgage by 30 years old. Now at 27 with 100 grand cash in your bank, you can actually see that being fulfilled. So it's like you can start to visualize, so you can start to knock these goals off that you have, and you can start to, you've got budget for ads, you've got all this stuff. So it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but to me, it was the first time in my life where I was like, okay, I can see a path.
And you know what I'll say there is that there's a discipline to putting cash in the bank. I've seen young guys now that have created an offer, they created a mechanism to make money, and they just throw it away. They spend it. They spend it on nonsensical business expenses. They spend it on lifestyle. There's a discipline to seeing your bank account go up. And I had a similar thing where my entire family and network was telling me, knock it off with this fitness thing. Knock it off with this fitness thing. Go back to school. Go back to school. And I remember being at a family dinner, right? Family, because all the family's getting together. And, my mom was always very hard on me because I wasn't going to school. And she was like, you need to finish school. And my grandma was also, funny enough, my grandma, Patsy, rest in peace, but she was like, Gregory is just like his father. He's so ambitious. He's carving out his own path. And anyway, so the family was going off, and the aunts and uncles. And I remember someone in my family was saying, but he needs a fallback. He needs a fallback. Like it's university, he needs the degree as a fallback. And I remember I had that point, I put $100K in my bank account. And that's what I said. I said, about $100K in my account is a good fallback. Like it's like I was putting cash away. And there's a lot of people, I've talked to them, I'm like, what are you doing? You've been making money, you have money coming in, and you just blow it. You have to build the discipline to create positive cash flow. Of course, reinvest and grow your business. But if you can't have the discipline to create positive cash flow and build a cash reserve, then no matter how much money you make, it's how you do one thing's how you do everything. If you can't, even if it's a small amount, right? Like let's say someone is making $15K a month, they have business expenses and lifestyle, right? Even if it's $500 a month, build the discipline to build cash flow. And that's what you were doing, right? And from you, like we came from two different worlds, right? But for me, it was very, very clear. If I wanted to achieve success, I had to do it myself. I wasn't getting handouts. But for you, that 100K was like life-changing. It's like, I'm in a, but you were able to realize and build profit.
So the difference was when I was stepping out of England, I was coming out of a middle-class background.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of what you got to learn was your dad taught you a high vibration from a wealth mindset. So he didn't want to just give you everything because he knew that you had to carve your own path. That's why he didn't just give you everything. So he knew that, but he taught you how to believe at a different level. And the wealthiest in society teach their children how to believe more than anything. The mindset's incredible that they teach them, and that's why invariably, if they've been taught the way that you have, they can apply it to any kind of niche, and over a period of time it will work because the belief's so strong. Whereas in every other echelon of society, you're not taught that. You have to learn that later in life, and that becomes harder. So that's why the first 100 made me have that safety blanket so that I could then build that belief because I'd never seen it before. By seeing the way that your dad was operating in business, you would have seen these kind of lumps flying around everywhere, which made it your reality. So it wasn't big to you. The hardest thing is when you come from like the lower end of town, you see numbers that you can't even comprehend because they weren't in your reality.
Yeah.
So I think it's such a powerful thing that your dad's taught you because by proximity, he's given you the abundance that unlocks all the doors, and we're all trying to learn the abundance from the lower echelon here. So like the path, what you said, and that path that you gave people to raise their vibration so they can believe in the numbers, that's very powerful.
Thank you. And my father actually, he came from middle class, and he was his mother passed away when he was very, very young, and he had this. And this is a sign of very strong masculine power, is when you are unreactive to the environment around you. I was told, like when he was young, 13, 13. I mean, we're going back to whatever, 1960. In 1960, having $1 million is like having 30 million, right? Or whatever the but in 1960, $1 million, $1 million gets you everything you want. And he was clear, I'm going to become a millionaire. And he had that was not a thing in his environment. And so I came from this position of wealth, but my father did not. But he had that just unshakable reality that he was going to become incredibly successful. And even, funny enough, my mom, right? My mom was like, hey, go back to school. I think when my father was dating my mom, she was like, he came back, he got some job. He had no experience. He convinced someone to pay him like $70,000 a year or something, which was a lot. And my mom couldn't believe it, right? So he just was like, no way, show me the, right? So, but my father just had that unshakable reality. And that's a good, that's for the people that are coming from a position. And I can, when you're around an environment with all this, we are very receptive to this stuff. This is why they say you need to, choose your 5 closest friends wisely. When you're around people that are negative and down, right? It's hard to not be affected. The strongest frame always wins. And so if you can be the person that just has the strongest frame, people will start to they won't challenge you as much. And I even was giving advice to this person. I kind of, he does really, really cool artistic content, right? So we connected, and I was giving him this advice. It's that when you show up into the world, no matter how down you are, whatever negative thoughts are happening, something's stressing you out, you're going through a breakup, this has happened, you just found out, no matter what is going on, when you step into the world, you need to step into the world as the strongest person you can. And so that means you have to wake up early, you have to flesh out, journal, whatever you have to journal, get to a point where you're like, okay, this is the position I'm in. This is shitty. What's the best move? You have to step into the world like you got it solved, even when you don't. You have to step into the world like you are the man with the answers. You are going to become successful no matter what. And this person, he's into acting, right? If you go into an acting audition, right, and they feel like you're desperate for the outcome, they're going to it's not the right person, right? Yeah. If they feel like, this person it's going to work out for them. He's not worried. He doesn't take it or leave it. There's so much power in just feeling like it's going to work out. It's going to work out. You know what? If this doesn't happen, something better will happen. And that was another one of my father's favorite quotes, is that with every adversity, this is literally from Napoleon Hill, with every adversity comes a seed of an equal or greater benefit. And so my father,
can you say that again?
With every adversity comes a seed of an equal or greater benefit. Most people, something bad happens and they shut themselves off from something better happening. With every adversity comes a seed of an equal or greater benefit. And there's one other quote: to win without risk is to succeed without glory. So a lot of people are getting down on themselves because of how hard it is and how hard they have it. And this went wrong. My father would get excited. Okay, this door closed. Something better is coming, right? Things are down right now. Well, guess what? It can't get any worse. We can only go up, right? Now, if I can win, that's an amazing story. And so my father would chant these things to himself. He would chant them to himself to put himself in the most powerful, ambitious state to step into the world where people would be like, what is it with this guy? Where does this guy get this confidence?
Relentless.
Relentless. And there was there was a point where he was, so he before he built his company, he actually was working for this company. It was like a real estate conglomerate of Lindorf, a German company. And he was working for the company and he took it over. And when he was getting hired, there was one of the owners of the company, German guy. And he was just like, why are you here? There's nothing on your resume. What are you doing here? This is not real. There's no real estate stuff here. What are you doing? And my father said, real estate, you can learn. But what you can't teach is what I have, the discipline, the determination, the will to succeed. And the German guy was like, And boom, he just hired him. And then it's just some people have this feeling, this sense where like, you just are gonna bet on them. No matter where they are right now, you have to bet on them. And I think they were hanging out. They're going through Forest Hill, a nice area in Toronto. My father was looking at these homes, like, who the hell is living in these homes? What are these multi-million-dollar homes? And German guy was like, you will be very soon. And so it's like that confidence is what you need to step into the world and realize your goals. And if you look at a book called The New Earth, I love the Eckhart Tolle's work, and he has a book called The New Earth. And if you want to go into more of a spiritual, if you want to look at it from more of a spiritual angle, your inner reality determines your external world. You are creating your external world with your internal reality. And this is in every element of life. And so if you're unhappy with the world you're living in, you must look at the external. And again, sometimes like it's not always the person that has the more money that's happier, right? Happiness is there can be people that have tons of money that are unhappy, right? Your internal world reflects your external world. And so if you're constantly in your internal world telling yourself you're not good enough, you're not going to make it, then you're going to create that.
Guys, as you may be aware, over the last 8 or 9 months, I've been doing mentorships one-to-one with many businesses and many brands, helping them scale their revenue, scale their systems, increase their growth. I've done over $10 million US online myself with ContentRemoval.com since 2017. And I'm telling you now that when you get the right mentorship at the right time, you can unlock a whole new level. And I want to be that for you and for your business and your growth. Now, the caveat is here, I don't want to work with you unless you're already doing over 10K a month. But if you are doing over 10K a month right now and you want to scale yourself to the whole new level of life and benefit from my experience, me getting the arrows in the back on the way to success, if you want to benefit from that, click the link below this video, go on the mentorship page and make an application. And if it's right and if you fit the narrative that I'm looking to help, then I'd love to work with you.
The biggest gift your father ever gave you was teaching you self-belief by showing you in your reality. And that was something you've picked up and ingrained from when you were a young child. And it's just been ingrained into you. And then you've stepped into life as an adult and the self-belief is just in you at your core and it shines out of you. So that internal reality reflects in your external reality. I got the same discipline and belief from my father, and I've had it from boxing trainers. And I believe that every man needs a masculine figure to show him that path of internal self-belief. And there is a big difference between confidence and self-belief. You see, confidence is an external mirror. This was explained to me by a boxing trainer in a corner once. He explained to me confidence is an external mirror that sits outside of you, that when someone throws a stone, the glass can shatter and your confidence can be shattered. Internal self-belief is something ingrained within you, that even if someone throws a brick at internal belief, you cannot shatter internal belief because it is instilled, it is ingrained, and it runs through you. So you shouldn't be trying to build confidence within yourself because that can be shattered. You should be ingraining self-belief from day one. And you need a masculine figure or a mentor or someone in your life that can ingrain that within you, someone who's relentlessly in the pursuit of being the best version of themselves and carries himself in a way like your father did and like my father did and like my boxing trainers do, as gentlemen outside and inside the house and in how they treat women and how they treat deals outside in business as well. And I can see every time when you speak, I see that embodiment of what that man's taught you through your own actions and through your own life. When we talked about business at dinner the other night, every level of etiquette, the way that you do business, the way that you operate, the way that you structure business has all come from that ingrained self-belief that your dad taught you before 11 years old. I don't know if you've ever thought of it in that depth, but I see it from the external because I've lived that life with my father, you know?
Thank you. And, one of the greatest ways I find of really building that self-belief before you worry about building a business, making money, is fitness. If you can achieve a fitness goal, if you can get in very, very good shape, you are teaching yourself the skill to become successful. Very few people can put in the work to achieve the body they want. And so, you have the 4 pillars of life. You have your health, right? Your physique, your health, your fitness. You have your wealth, you have your love, relationships, and your just overall fulfillment. And so getting the physique, and I've seen this with a lot of my clients, right? Where they're stuck in life, they're out of shape, or they're in okay shape, or they're 100 pounds overweight. Once they transform their body, they build that self-belief. Wow, I finally did this. What else can I do now? And so this is why I'm so passionate about health and fitness. Getting your fitness dialed builds that self-belief, and now you can parlay that into the next thing, into the business, into the career, into the acting, into the relationships. And it's like there's no better way to build that self-belief than become strong, become lean, become healthy, become fit. And now, let's go tackle the next goal. And then you build more, you build even greater self-belief.
There's a few key things within fitness that I watch you do, and I've studied your work, that, some of the bodybuilders of old were talking about, and there's some new studies on it as well. The 2 key things that I've seen you do successfully is, 1, you're training and lifting 3 to 4 days a week, which is similar to what Dorian Yates was doing back in the day, training for Mr. Olympia, and everyone thought he was crazy, because people were training 6 days a week. And then there's fasting as well that you've implemented. Can you walk me through a structure of how everyone listening to this can start to implement these things and why they should implement them?
Yeah. So when I was really studying and very in the fitness scene, reading everything, no one really had a clear answer. It was very convoluted. What does it take to build muscle? If I want to be 180 pounds of muscle, what is required? The reality is that muscle is a byproduct of strength. As you get stronger, you gain muscle. As you create mechanical tension, you lift heavier loads, you build muscle. The pump, the tone, the fluff, the chasing the pump and doing light weights for high reps is a myth. It gives you a temporary swellness in muscle. It doesn't create lasting muscle size. The key to building muscle is progressive overload. It's going from lifting 30-pound dumbbells to 40, to 50, to 80. And so it became very, very clear that as you train too much, as you do lots of sets, as you do tons of workouts, as you're in the gym all the time, you're breaking your body down, and it's very hard to get stronger. And so by peeling back, Bruce Lee had a quote, it's about hacking away at the inessential. As you remove the fluff, and as you create a system that's very, very refined and a bit more minimalist, you get stronger. Your body grows and recovers and builds when you're resting, not in the gym. So once you have that stimulus, once you've created the muscle building stimulus, the correct thing to do is what? To do another 5, 10 sets and tear it down? No, that sets you back. The correct thing to do is give your body time to rest and then come back right when you're fully recovered so you can lift heavier. And so I just crafted my training for one purpose and one purpose only: to achieve progressive overloads, to get stronger, to lift heavier. And that turned into training 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and doing 4 or 5 exercises each workout, 2, 3 hard sets. That was it. And I came back stronger. And when I trained more, I didn't experience that. I got stalled strength gains. My physique looked worse. And I probably have swept up hundreds of thousands of people into doing this through my programs. My programs alone, we've sold about 400,000. And it's the biggest hump people have with getting over this whole idea, because a lot of people want to train more. Oh my God, I'm doing 5 days. If I go down to 3, I'm going to lose muscle. They're scared to do it. And I tell them, literally, you've already proven it. You're stuck. You're not improving your strength, okay? You're training too much. You're a natural. Most of the bodybuilding workouts and programs have been sublimated by guys that are enhanced on lots of anabolic steroids. And even Dorian Yates and some enhanced bodybuilders actually, funny enough, found out that even that was too much, right? Dorian Yates lifted 3-4 days a week. And soon enough, they try my style of training and it's like the chains are off of them. They're broken free. They start to get stronger. They start to experience more personal records. And as you get stronger, you build more muscle. If you can increase strength in the 5 to 10 rep range, you get stronger. You can do 30 sets per muscle group per week. And if you're not getting stronger, you're not growing. So no one really explained it. There were so many myths in bodybuilding that, if you want to focus on strength, do 4 to 6 reps. If you want to do the hypertrophy range, do 8 to 12. It's garbage. Muscle is built through increasing strength. If I find someone that's complaining that, hey, I can't gain any muscle, it's like, no, because you're weak. If you can increase your strength, you will gain muscle. Specifically, the 5 to 10 rep range is great for gaining muscle. 2 or 3 reps is you're more so training the nervous system. You're training your nervous system to recruit muscles into action. You get a little bit of muscle growth, but 5 reps, you get more volume. That's the sweet spot. Sort of the sweet spot's the 5 to 8 rep range for muscle growth. And that's it. And so I also would tell people, you need to hit the heavy set while you're fresh. So many people are going in the gym, they're repping out light, they're doing 12 reps close to failure, then they're increasing weight, doing 10. By the time they get to a weight that can actually produce muscle growth, if you're lifting a light weight for high reps, you're not creating enough mechanical tension. That's not going to induce growth. But now you're pre-fatiguing yourself, so now you're doing a challenging weight, but you're already fatigued. And so to create muscle growth, you have to be fresh to create the strongest stimulus. So I would tell people, warm up and do that heavy weight for 4 to 6 reps while you're fresh. Rest a few minutes, drop the weight, and do a few more reps. That's the order you want to do. You want to do the heaviest weight while you're fresh so you can actually train to your potential, and then you can drop the weight and do a couple more lighter sets for a couple more reps to get a little bit more volume, and that's the correct way to train, not to exhaust yourself with light weight and then go heavier. If you have a serious injury, you're trying to work through it, and you can do that to work through an injury, but when the goal is to get big and strong, you lift heavy first. And so that was sort of my thesis on training, and the results we've seen have been insane. And I tell people, look, don't take this as the voice of God. Put it to the test. Mm-hmm. Put it to the test. And I would tell people, look, if you're making strength gains every week, keep doing what you're doing. It's working. Most often they weren't. Most often they were stuck. They're, I'm at a plateau. People do my training, they get freakishly strong. And so the second thing is with the fasting, right, is that, so that's how you solve for muscle growth. You must get stronger. How do you solve for fat loss? Fat loss, especially 10 years ago, no one really understood it. There was so much nonsense going on. You gotta eat low carbs to lose fat. You gotta eat every small little meals every few hours. You gotta eat clean. It was all these different answers that were all garbage. If you want to lose fat, you have to be in a caloric deficit, non-negotiable. Okay. Now there is an issue though with some people go too extreme. You try and eat. You got to be in deficit. So they overdo it. They do too much cardio. They go put themselves into too big of a deficit. Their body fights back. They pull the elastic band and they binge eat. You have to put your body in the right calorie deficit so you can coax your body lean. You don't want to bootstrap it and kill yourself to get lean. You want to coax your body lean. You have to eat the right balance is good. Balance of proteins, fats, and carbs. There's a phenomenon with a lot of fitness models that crash their testosterone when they lose weight because they eat extremely high protein on a low calorie diet. When you go very, very high protein on a low calorie diet, that means you have very little room for fats and carbs. And this has been shown to plummet testosterone. Sex hormone binding globulin skyrockets and you lose your free T. And so if you want to get lean, you got to do a moderate calorie deficit and you got to eat balanced. Get sufficient protein. Don't go crazy high. Get enough protein, 0.82 grams per pound of target body weight, and eat a balance of fats and carbs. Balanced is what allows your body to have healthy hormone levels. Because if testosterone levels drop, it's going to be harder to build muscle. And so you want to be in a moderate calorie deficit. And really, this was my motif. This is what helped me get lean. And I struggled. I spent several years bouncing around 175, going up to 195 while trying to lose weight. I'd be gaining 20 pounds. I was in this emotional roller coaster. And I had periods where I would binge eat and I would feel disgusted with myself. I would feel horrible about myself. And it was, I wouldn't want to go out. I went through this horrible phase that literally, it was the fitness industry that caused it by pushing unrealistic fat loss plans you couldn't do. Like you did not fail the diet failed you. I had muscle. I've been lifting since I was 13. Trying to go on a very, very low carb diet or trying to do a 1,700 calorie diet is insane. And so of course, like, leptin levels drop. Then there's a thing where at one point, like now, if I'm eating, like if I eat 4,000 calories, I'm going to feel pretty full. At that point, because I was starving myself, I was punishing myself, I could eat 10,000 calories and want to keep going, right? And it's a psychological and also physiological loop where you crash your leptin, your body's deprived. It feels like, okay, we're in a food shortage right now. So when food becomes available, when I give up on my diet, we don't know the next chance we're going to have. So we might as well eat everything, right? So it's you have to be very intelligent with the approach when you're losing fat, because there's a lot of different, there's always this risk of when you're getting lean, are you going to starve to death? Especially when you're getting to a low body fat. You have limited fat reserves. We have fat reserves for a reason, right? It was a survival mechanism. If there was a food shortage and you had 5% body fat, you are going to be the first to go. And so you have to coax yourself to be lean. And so to master fat loss, you have to master hitting the right deficit. And so the next question was, how do I make being in a deficit as enjoyable as possible? And I failed on everything. So a lot of people will fail to get six-pack abs, fail to get lean, and their answer is that it's not realistic or it's not possible. Like staying lean year round is not possible. Okay. We're not programmed for it. I just didn't give up. And I just finally figured it out. And you have to find the most enjoyable way to stay in a calorie deficit. So, let's say someone's 200 pounds, they want to get down to 175. Okay. And they're going to do the steps. Usually 2,200 calories is the sweet spot, right? You want to find the most enjoyable way to eat 2,200 calories. I like food. I like eating big meals. When I was younger and I'd go out for dinner, everyone would be, any meal really, people would be like, holy, you can eat a lot, right? You can eat a lot. And so I like to eat. And so for me, the most enjoyable way to do that was to fast, eat a big dinner, eat a nourishing, smaller sort of lunch, and then you have that big dinner feast, and then save room for dessert every single night. And so that's what I do. I have about 700 calories, 700-800 calories for my first meal. I'll have about 1,200 calories for dinner, and then I'll have about 400 or 500 calories for dessert. And I'll do 2,500 calories, and I'll get my steps in, and I'll be in a small deficit. So I can, when you're losing the last 5 pounds, you actually want to lose about half a pound a week, right? If you go too fast, you can pull the elastic band. The less fat you have, the more careful you have to be. And so I was like, how do I create the most enjoyable diet strategy to follow? And that's exactly what I did. And then it takes about 2-3 weeks to get locked in, where your body kind of resists being in a deficit for the first couple weeks. And all of a sudden, if you just stick with it, it's like, boom, feels normal, feels good, you feel satisfied, it's easy, you have absolute control. The hardest part for dieting, actually, funny enough, so if you're following a very extreme approach, the hardest part is all of it, right? Maybe you can muster through the first few weeks and then your body fights back and breaks. But if you diet correctly, the hardest part is the first couple weeks, because you're used to eating more. Now you're telling yourself, hey, we're in a deficit. And you're like, your mind is like, what are we doing here? Why are we in this deficit? I want to eat food. Well, I want a bit more food. And so it's kind of like it's a psychological game, right? So once you just commit, it's like frame, right? We talked about frame. It's like, if your mind doesn't believe you're actually going to follow through on the diet, your mind will play games with you and tell you, go eat another cookie, go have this. If you have absolute frame and your mind believes, no, Frankie's doing this. Frankie does not screw around. He's made the decision. He's doing it. It stops playing games. But for most people, even myself, sometimes I have to go through this 2-3 week period, right? Before my mind is like, okay, we're doing this. Yes, daddy, we're doing this, right? You have to hit that point where your mind is like, okay, you're in charge.
So it almost gets easier after a time because your body starts to know that you're serious with your own self.
Yeah, and you have like, Eckhart totally talks about this. You have like, your thoughts are not you. There's a separateness between you, the observer of the thoughts, and the thoughts, right? And so it's like, I call it being locked in. When you're locked in, fat loss is so easy. This is what people don't realize, is that a diet, let's say you want to go on the correct deficit, you're going to do things correctly. It's only the first 3 weeks where you're dieting. After that, it's normal. It's once you're locked in, it's so easy to get lean. It's getting locked in that's the hard part. And then once you're locked in, it's not getting out of being locked in. It's like, oh, you know, your friend has a wedding, so you go there on the weekend, and now you're overeating, and now you missed a couple workouts, you missed your steps, and now your mind is like, okay, like now, you know, now we can mess with Frankie, and now we can tell him, you know. But once you're locked in, it's so easy, and I'm locked in right now. But I remember not being locked in. It's very, very hard. And so there's like that once you commit to the 3 weeks, you see that progress, now it's automatic. There's never that temptation. And this only works when you coax yourself lean, because you're giving your body a system it enjoys. You're eating the right amount of calories, the right balance of proteins, fats, and carbs. You know, maybe you're even giving yourself a little bit of a treat at night. And so you're following something you stick to. This is why the fitness industry, especially when it comes to fat loss, is so dumb. Most fitness approaches and most dieting approaches fail to pass the most important test. Can you see yourself doing this for the rest of your life? If the answer is no, it is an absolute waste of time. It is a huge waste of time. If you can't see yourself doing this for the rest of your life, what is gonna happen? Maybe you stick to it for 2 months. Maybe you lose 10, 12 pounds of fat, and then you go off it and then you gain the weight back. The way to be lean for life is to find something you can follow for life, right? The difference is that when you're maintaining a low, let's say you wanted to get to 9% body fat, maintaining 9% body fat, you are still cutting, okay? Here's what I mean. When you're cutting, right, you're in the calorie deficit, you have to, you know, maybe you're doing a fast, you're accountable for your calories, you're eating a moderate lunch, you gotta have your big dinner, but like, you have to be accountable for your calories. You're eating filling foods, you know, lean meats and potatoes and veggies, right? When you're maintaining, you still have to do all those things, but now instead of being on 2,200 calories, now you're on 25, 26. Now you're on maintenance. Or maybe you're on 2,400 calories, and then on the weekend, you give yourself a little bit more wiggle room, right? And so to maintain a low body fat, to maintain 10, 12%, you're still cutting, you just have more room. So it's the same, you have to do the same stuff, right? You can't, there's never been a point when I've been able to maintain a low body fat and just kind of, okay, I'm gonna just eat this meal now, I'm gonna wing it. Like I know when I wake up pretty much what I'm gonna eat for the day. And this is, you know, we talked about writing it down to achieve your goals. If you've been the person that's always going over your calories, what's the absolute best thing you can do? Write down exactly what you are gonna eat that day. And you know what's funny? When you write it down, it's like 3 times higher success rate. It's just like for your business, if you're like, you have a bunch of things you want to do, right? Most of it doesn't get done. But if you write down, here's exactly what I'm going to do today, it's like your mind trusts you when you put it onto paper.
Yeah. It's like you trust your own self too.
Exactly. And so if you can just write down, okay, you know, if you've been screwing up going over your calories, just be like, this is what we're eating. I'm like, I am saying this as someone that had the hardest time dieting. For me, it's the hardest thing to do is to eat less. Like it's hard. You can put me through any workout, okay, whatever. It's fun. Working out's fun. You push your body. Working out, whatever. It's hard for an hour, but then you feel so good after. Dieting is something you have to be accountable for 24 hours a day, right?
This is why, like, when I came from Dubai to Miami, I've kind of slipped a bit off the diet. So I've put on a little bit of weight that I'm going to get off. But also, I've noticed that I was definitely overtraining. Like I was doing 6 days a week in Dubai. And then when I've got to Miami, because I'm trying to keep in this 5-6 days a week thing, I'm starting to feel like my body's aching. I'm like, oh, this is hurting. And it's not in a nice way either.
Right.
Like it's like, oh, my back feels tight. This feels tight. I can't box anymore because I'm lifting too many weights. It's like,
Yeah, so this is actually, when the goal is to get lean, you must cut your training down to the minimum. Here's why, okay? Lifting produces an appetite response. When you're in the gym, when you're lifting, you're creating this response to eat more. When you do cardio, when you do anything beyond a brisk walk, when you increase the intensity beyond a brisk walk, you are burning some level of carbohydrate, some level of glucose, some level of glycogen. The more intense it is, the more you use glucose for fuel, right? That triggers a compensation effect. And so I actually can't get lean when I work out a lot, even cardio. I remember when I was doing a lot of cardio, I would get much hungrier and I'd just eat more and I would overeat, right? So when I want to get lean, what I do is I lift weights 2 or 3 days a week, minimalist, short workouts, and walk. That's it. Walk like 10,000 steps a day is good to lose fat. 12,000 is better. 14, 15,000 is when you become a fat burning machine. It's just like your body's programmed to lose fat when your diet's dialed and you're doing 15K steps a day. There is no increase in appetite from walking. Walking is the most powerful fat loss tool. Why? Walking burns a moderate amount of calories, but it does not increase your appetite. There's no other activity that does that.
I love walking.
Yeah, and this is why, when people go to Europe, okay, why do a lot of people go to Europe? And they're like, what? I go to Europe, I lose weight. The biggest reason, okay, people lose weight in Europe is because they're walking more. When they're in Europe, they're exploring these cities. Europe is built as a walking culture. If you're here in South Beach, right, you can walk, but most of America is not built for a walking culture. It's a car culture. When you look at the societies that do the most walking, they're naturally leaner. And now when someone goes to Europe, they're not in their house. They're not in their normal environment with all their snacks, all their food. And so they don't have that grazing mentality. They're in a hotel. If they want to eat food, they have to pay $25 for a minibar, right? So they're in their hotel. They go out for a meal, a filling meal. They walk, and that's it. If you want to get lean, you do not snack. You do not, I'm going to eat lunch. I'm going to have this for my first meal. I'm going to fast. I'm going to eat this for lunch. I'm going to eat this for dinner. And then if I want to snack, I'm going to specifically fit something into my calories. I know that I have 400 calories left to eat my chocolate, to eat my cookies, and I'm going to program that into my day. I'm not going to snack mindlessly. That is impossible.
This is what I do. I get the protein bars, and next thing you know, I've eaten 800 calories in protein bars throughout the day. Just mindless stuff because I get bored. Essentially, I get bored of like cooking or preparing food. But if you don't prepare, you prepare yourself to fail.
Yeah. If I was going to basically spoon feed someone how to get lean very, very easily, here's what I would tell them to do. Say you wake up at 8 a.m. Okay, wake up. Drink black coffee and sparkling water. If you can wait an hour before introducing caffeine, it works much better to suppress your appetite and improve energy. First meal, at least 4 to 5 hours after rising. So if you're up at 8, go till 12 or 1. Your first meal should be nourishing. I'll either do an omelet, right? Maybe have a croissant and a little bit of fruit, okay? Maybe that's 700-800 calories. Sometimes I'll have plain Greek yogurt. I mix it with my chocolate collagen, fresh fruits, Rice Krispie. I have a treat for my first meal. It hits the spot. I'm satisfied. It makes dieting effortless. That's 700 calories. Your feast dinner, you want to have 12 to 14 ounces of lean protein, okay? Could be steak, could be turkey, could be fish. Some broccoli, cauliflower. Broccoli, cauliflower is actually very effective. It's very nutritious. Anyone that says you should not eat veggies is completely wrong. The research does not support that. The overall benefits of veggie intake far outweigh any potential anti-nutrient, but veggies strip excess estrogen from you, specifically broccoli, cauliflower. Extremely healthy. And so you want to eat a nourishing, healthy meal with 12 to 14 ounces of lean meat, some veggies, and then potatoes. Potatoes are the most underrated diet food. Why? Look at the research. There's something called the satiety index. It's how filling something is per 100 calories. Potatoes are at the absolute top of that. There's not a more filling, satiating food, by and large, than potatoes. And so you have potatoes with a little bit of butter. You don't need to go low fat, a little bit of butter, right? Meat, lean meat, veggies, and that's your dinner. You eat till you're full. Drink sparkling water as well. It keeps you full. And then for dessert, you get a dessert. You can have 400 calories of whatever you want. Whatever you can have and not compulsive overeat. So, it could be like a Magnum ice cream bar. It could be cookies, but you have to be disciplined. You can't finish the cookie. You can't go out and get more. 400 calories of whatever you want. If you do that and you walk at least 10,000 plus steps a day, you will get lean. You will get lean, you will get lean, you will get lean. That's the most effortless approach to enjoy being in a moderate calorie deficit.
When you look at someone with my body shape, how long would it take me to get lean?
So what's your weight right now?
I'd say 160, 165, something like that.
Yeah, so let's just say it's 165, and let's just say you're 15% body fat and you want to get down to 10%. It means you have about 10 pounds of fat you have to lose, give or take, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to lose about a pound a week. If you try to lose more than a pound of fat a week and program in a bigger deficit, what ends up happening is you lose more fat? Maybe a little bit, but you also lose more muscle, right? Muscle is what keeps your metabolic rate high and also makes you have that chiseled look, not skinny fat. You also will set yourself up for screwing up on your diet because when you're in a bigger deficit, your body eventually will get ravenous and then you fall off. It's like the fastest way to get lean is to actually take the smart, slower road, is the faster road. And so you're looking at 10 weeks being locked in and dialed.
I'm going to do the diet program that you give me. I'm going to eat the diet that you give me, and I'm going to train 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, lifting weights, and I'm going to knock off Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday weights.
And you'll get stronger and you'll build more muscle.
And I'm going to try that, and I'm going to document it I might even document it on my Raw channel, or might even document it, come and do a podcast about it. But I want to document it because I've studied Dorian Yates' way of training for such a long time, and when I saw that you're saying the similar thing with what you're saying, I think it's going to change my body type and make my life a lot easier because I can actually enjoy lifting weights 3 times a week. I'm not enjoying it 6 days a week. I don't. It makes me annoyed because it takes away from me being able to do any boxing. I like to move around. I like to make that's a pleasurable way for me to move. Right? It's just how my mechanics work. So when I'm just lifting weights all the time, I just feel like a big, it's just not, doesn't feel good. So I think 3 days a week is optimal.
3 days is honestly perfect. And you want to be looking at, if you want to get that chiseled look, we got to bring your weight down, right? So you got to get leaner. And then we want to bring your key lifts up. So you want to be tracking a few key lifts.
Just break down so that we all understand that listen to this, that say you're programming a Monday, a Wednesday, and a Friday lift. Mm-hmm. What body parts are you hitting on the Monday, the Wednesday, and the Friday, and how are you structuring that? Obviously, one of the days is just legs, I understand.
Correct.
But what are you doing on the other 2 days?
Yes. So Monday can be more of your chest-focused upper body day. That's when you can go and do some incline dumbbell presses. You can do a secondary chest movement like a dip or a flat machine press. Then you go into bicep training. So you can do a few sets of, dumbbell curls or machine bicep curls. And then you finish off with face pulls, rear delts. It's really good whenever you're doing a lot of horizontal pressing, it's very good to finish your workout off with rear delts to balance out the shoulders. It helps injury proof you. That's on Monday, right? Wednesday, you do, legs. So you can be doing some Bulgarian split squats, Romanian deadlifts, leg extensions, calf raises. I really like, if you look at what makes someone look bigger and more jacked, right? Funny enough, it's like when I look at you and look at your face, I'm kind of looking at you from chest up, right? Even specifically mid-chest up. What makes someone look more powerful is neck and traps. And so I like to finish off my leg workouts. You get a testosterone boost training legs. You can milk out a little extra growth if you do a little upper body after legs. So I'll do shrugs, a few sets of shrugs after my legs. It pairs beautifully with leg training. And that gives you size and fullness up near your face that makes you pop, right? If you look at a lot of these male actors and celebrities, they tend to have thicker necks and traps. It makes them pop on camera. And then, so that's on the Wednesday. Then on the Friday is going to be upper body with more shoulder back focused. So that's going to be doing a few sets of, dumbbell shoulder presses, could be machine shoulder presses. Then you'll do some pulling work, right? So you can do some lat pull down or cable rows. The back is really the easiest muscle group to really get jacked. If you get strong on weighted pull-ups, I had to stop training weighted pull-ups because the back just gets too big. For the movie star aesthetic, the back just gets too big. So I'll do a few sets of now I'll do either lat pull down or I'll alternate cable rows. And then tricep work. So you can do some tricep extension and then lateral raises to build the full, more 3D shoulders. And so that's the framework, okay? And the beauty is that you're essentially hitting your arms Monday, Friday, okay? Your chest is getting hit directly on Monday, and then you're also hitting your chest indirectly, right? With shoulder presses, you get some chest work in there. And so the only muscles you're not hitting twice a week, the shoulders get hit a ton. You're doing rear delts and lateral raises. When you do benching, you're still hitting the front delt. The shoulders just blow up beautifully. Your shoulders, as a man, you want it to be your dominant muscle group. The shoulders, you want to be a little bit bigger on shoulders than chest. That gives you this plate of armor, powerful warrior look. What kills aesthetics, right? What kills aesthetics is having an overdeveloped chest and slightly smaller shoulders. There's a lot of bodybuilders that just spend all day doing, they train their chest more than shoulders. And the chest is it creates a more feminine look. You want the shoulders to be dominant. And so that, the beautiful framework with that is that your shoulders are gonna partition and realize a little bit extra muscle growth. Your chest getting hit indirectly twice a week. Your arms are getting plenty of work. And then the back and legs grow really well from one hard session a week. And you get that balance. And plus you're getting, with the rear delts, you're getting a little bit of back in there. With the shrugs, you're kind of filling up, the mid back as well. And so the back grows beautifully. Everything grows beautifully. And that's sort of the routine to achieve sort of that movie star look. I craft my routines for a specific goal. It's not to look like a bodybuilder. It's to kind of build that, there was a blog article, okay, about this. There was referencing my programs and stuff. They called it the fuck me now physique. It's the fuck me now physique, right? This is like the look that turns heads. It's the look where if they're doing a movie and they have $100, $200, $500 million budget, they want to pick the actor that doesn't look like a bodybuilder, but has the bigger shoulders, the taut waist. Now what's happening in fitness and bodybuilding is that you're seeing guys with all these drugs that have this GH gut. They have this distended gut from high amounts of anabolics, and it looks horrible. It's like a ratio. There's a ratio that you're building, like real bodybuilding. It's like an art form. You want to build
symmetry.
It's symmetry. And so bodybuilding has gone way too far. But I always believed that. You can do the research on this, right? Google this. What's the most attractive BMI for a man? It's 24 to 26 with a lean waist and good muscle. So 24 to 26 for a guy that is 5'10", that's 175 to 180. That is the most attractive physically, not 200 pounds. If someone's 6'1", maybe they're 190. So it's you do not have to get as big as you think. So if I went on steroids and gained 15, 20 pounds of muscle, I would look less attractive. In the bodybuilding world, it would be way better, but in reality, that would be considered less attractive.
Well, a lot of these men that take a lot of this performance-enhancing gear, they take all this gear and they push all these SARMs and everything else into their body, but then they end up with men attracted to them. Do you know what I mean? There's men introducing them to themselves in the gym. It's not women. There's not women rolling up to them in the gym when I'm looking at them. It's oh, mate, your arms look great, this and the other. It's compliments from men.
Yeah,
The compliments that I see coming from women are when you're, like you say, at that more aesthetic type range.
And this is why I was so passionate about creating my fitness brand, is because pretty much everyone became goal hijacked. And I saw this as a teenager, as an 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old. Specifically when I was 18, I became goal hijacked. And I was thinking that I needed to get to 200 pounds. And obviously, as a natural at 5'10", to get to 200 pounds, that meant getting fluffy and looking way worse. And I remember when I was eating a lot at 18 and trying to bulk, my skin got horrible. I get all this acne. Eating a lot of calories creates inflammation in the body. It's not good. And so I learned this. I went to school. I showed up and I was training hard, right? Or like I was doing my 3-day lifting, and then I was, doing a little boxing, and, I was pretty dialed on my nutrition. I went to university looking really good at like 168 pounds. My face was lean. I had a buzz cut. I remember at Frosh Week, I was getting all this attention, right? From women. It was nuts. And like, I think I went to school, that was like a 3-to-1 ratio. Like it was, the attention was crazy. And then I hung out with these bodybuilders, and I was eating a lot, and I was putting on weight, but I was putting on fat and muscle, and the attention went down a ton, right? So the goal is to be lean. And yeah, as you get big and you chase being bigger, you're attracting the wrong attention. And a lot of guys get goal hijacked. They want to look awesome, but then they think they need to get to 200 pounds, 220 and get massive. And it does the opposite. And so the goal is to, if you wanted to achieve the highest level of fitness, the goal is to have a 25 to 26 BMI, lean. That's it. Once you achieve that, have fun with fitness, stay in shape, enjoy it, right? And that's it. Like that's the peak. That's once you hit that, there's nothing else to achieve. Trying to get, and again, it's as a natural, there's a law of diminishing returns, right? Where your first year of lifting, you can gain 15, 20 pounds of muscle mass or lean mass. And then it goes down, right, to like 7 pounds and then 4 pounds. It's like, once you get to that BMI range lean, you're not really gaining muscle. You have to work so hard to get a very menial increase, but that's okay because you've already done it. You got the look, right? And then if you chase excess bulk or even excess fat, or you just try and get bigger, or you go on anabolics, what are you sacrificing? You're sacrificing long-term health, right? For really no benefit, to look bulkier and cheesy. And so like you want to have the lens of, one, what is the ideal look? It's not as big as you think. And 2, how can I be healthy and youthful for life? And being heavier, especially using anabolics, it accelerates aging like nothing else. There are guys that are 23 that use a lot of anabolics that look like they're 40. It's a real phenomenon. It speeds up aging like you couldn't imagine.
When is the right time to jump on TRT? Is there a right time, or is it something you'd avoid?
So, I mean, I've seen guys that have been able to do the right steps and maintain high testosterone in their 40s, even late 40s, crazy enough. 50 to 60 is sort of reverse puberty, okay? So here's what I mean by that. Men, right? You kind of hit puberty around 13, 14, and then it lasts 5 years. By 19, you're fully mature, so on and so forth, right? You go from essentially a boy to a man. 50 to 60 is like a minor reverse puberty, where it's much harder to have a lot of muscle mass at 60. You can do well in your 40s. If you work out, you get good sleep, you use the right supplements, like stuff like we have in our Mojo with the magnesium, the zinc, the boron, the top. If you use you can have very good healthy levels of testosterone in your 40s. At 60, it's a lot harder. In your 50s, and I've seen it with guys that are very, very fit and they're in great shape in their 40s, and then as they go through their 50s, it's a lot harder. That's where you have the downturn in testosterone. And even as you get to 70, there's a myth, right, that it's harder to lose fat, it's harder to be lean in your 30s and 40s. That's completely wrong. Your metabolism does not slow down, right? That's a complete myth. There's no such thing as a metabolic slowdown. Your metabolism is built off of how much muscle you have and how much you move. That's it. The only reason someone at 40 is having metabolic slowdown is because either they've lost muscle because they're not strength training or they move less. Metabolic slowdown is a complete myth. That said, when you get to your 60s and 70s, then there can be a little bit of a slowdown, right? But that slowdown is coupled with a drop in appetite. You do not have the same appetite at 70, right, as 25. So there's a coupling with it. But so to answer your question, the correct thing to do is, one, get blood work. Find out where your testosterone levels are. Do the correct steps to maintain healthy levels of testosterone, okay? If your testosterone is above 550, that's pretty good. If you're like in the 600s, that's great. 700, 800s, right? So I've been doing the correct steps in my 20s, and I was in incredible shape. My testosterone was always in the 600s. 600, 660, that's really good. Now, using the stuff, right? Supplements, I'm at 800, 840. That's really, really good, right? That's like the range essentially is anywhere from 300 to 1,000 nanograms per deciliter. But anywhere from 350 to 550 is not optimal. 550 plus is much better. So that's the correct thing to do, is see where you can get to, see where you can become naturally. And then if all of a sudden, you're in your 50s and now you're falling below 550, 500, and you're doing all the right stuff and you're at 480, then that's the time to look at, okay. But again, like, we still need a lot more research on TRT. Like, it's still fairly preliminary. Yeah. It's been a new phenomenon. The idea of men in their 40s and 50s going on TRT is a new thing. So is there, my question is, right, I want to see the results. I want to see, like, is there a negative effect on aging? Now, absolutely, if someone had a traumatic brain injury, if someone had a serious concussions can cause serious repeated concussions can stop your body from producing testosterone. It can disrupt the signal to your testes to, produce testosterone, right? So if someone has a serious issue and they're producing extremely low levels of testosterone and they've gone through all the natural stuff, the correct move is to use TRT, absolutely. But what I'm seeing right now is a ton of people that should not be jumping on TRT.
Yeah. I've noticed over the last 5 years that everyone around me is on TRT. And I'm sat over here like, now I'm thinking, and that's why I asked you at dinner the other night. It's like, should I go on TRT? And you're like, bro, I don't think you need testosterone, bro. I
also think that it's a massive, colossal mistake to go on TRT if you are not done having children.
Right.
It disrupts fertility like nothing else. Like it's like TRT is like a contraception. It's like getting a vasectomy.
Do you reckon it's a psyop then to teach men to jump on TRT, thinking they're raising their testosterone, which they are, but whilst neutralizing their biggest asset, which is having children?
I actually have not.
Because when you think of it, that would be a pretty good psyop for the rest of the world, wouldn't it? Where if you were trying to stop, if you wanted to make every man in the world complicit to their own downfall, wouldn't you feed as many men TRT knowing that it's going to lower their chances of having children as possible, whilst also giving them the temporary high that they wanted?
It would be a good plan. I cannot comment on the motive. I can say that there is a massive issue with men using TRT and especially anabolics that cannot have kids. And I've seen this happen, right? Where there are figures that say they don't want to have children. They don't see the point. Why would I have, like, what's the point of having kids? I don't want to have kids. It's because they're infertile. They found out that they actually cannot have a baby. And so it's a coping mechanism, right? So obviously, like, if you find out...
We're all here to have children. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. So it's like, there's a real crisis right now with, and it's not even just people using, TRT and anabolics. There's actually a massive drop in sperm count. Testosterone has gone down 40%. Sperm counts have gone down 50%. There's a huge struggle right now with a lot of people that are genuinely trying to have kids are struggling. There's a serious fertility issue. But yeah, on the TRT point, it's a colossal mistake to do TRT, especially if you're not done having children. Massive mistake. And the cool thing is, what's the ideal, right? Like, let's think about this for a second. What is the ideal best case scenario? The best case scenario is you get your testosterone to an amazing place naturally. Do you need to be 900? No. But if you can get into like the 600s or 550 to 700 with good free testosterone, that's awesome. That's freaking awesome. Like the ideal scenario is you achieve high testosterone levels naturally. If you had some massive issue where your body shut down, and again, there's certain things you can do that will shut down your testosterone production. If you're overweight or obese for too long, you literally can shut down your testosterone production.
I've decided today that I'm 3 to 5 children away from being able to do TRT. I'm literally 3 to 5 away. I couldn't risk it. I couldn't risk it, brother, because what you've just said there is it just dawned on me that it could be the world's biggest psyop. It literally could be that. Right. I don't know that it is. I'm just saying it could be.
But I have noticed that, funny enough, a lot of if anyone tells you they do not want to have children, they see it as a waste of time, what's the point? Look deeper. Are they fertile? Say, hey, show me your numbers. I want to see your sperm count. Every single time, and again, I feel like I feel bad. Like that would suck to find out you cannot have children. Some people even tell you right now, freeze your sperm just in case some freak accident happens. But asked to see their numbers, they're infertile. Am I wrong?
I don't think so. No, I think the thread that we're going down and the reverse psyop thing. I think if you go deeper into that, I think it's a massive phenomenon right now. I want to switch up gears.
And you know what's crazy? There's not one single country outside of Africa or Asia that has a positive birth rate. Not one. Not one single country.
And if you look deeper into what's going on with vaccines and rollouts in Africa, you'll see their birth rate drop off real quick.
Oh wow!
Over the coming 5 years, if you know what's coming down the track for countries like that and what they're doing, But there is a massive agenda with declining birth rates, and it's not coincidental what's happening. It's not coincidental what women and men are being prescribed at the doctors. It's not coincidental what you're seeing that's socially acceptable. All of it's a planned narrative that comes down the track that weakens your resolve, that makes you less of a man, that makes you less driven, that makes you less motivated, that gets you in less shape, less fertile, and it's all down the track.
To finish that loop kind of point, it's that like the current world we live in makes it very, very hard to have high testosterone. So we have all these different endocrine disruptors, hormone disruptors, microplastics that shut down testosterone production. Men are living in a way that shuts down testosterone production. And then those that want to have high testosterone, right? So a lot of those end up losing fertility over time. And those that want to have high testosterone, they end up getting swayed into doing TRT, which shuts down fertility. And so there's this
gotcha
negative outcome. So I'm here trying to tell people, do it naturally, get your T levels to a solid place naturally. If you want to do TRT, at least have all your children first.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with TRT if you've had your children.
Yeah.
But if, like me, you still have the hopes of having a big family, like you can't be going near the TRT. Like, fully transparently, I've asked you and I've asked other people about TRT because I want to be able to run through walls. But my testosterone levels, as told by all of you guys, are pretty bloody good.
They're pretty good, and there's so many ways to optimize it even further if you want to.
Yeah. And we were talking about how high I am naturally and how high I could be even more naturally just with supplementation of certain things. So it's like, I can't risk taking TRT just to go 1,000 plus to be able to run through the walls that I want to run through.
The cost benefit analysis for you is horrible.
Yeah. yeah. It is. I just want to switch up gears, but before we jump off this podcast, I want to switch up gears. I want to touch upon the business you've grown, especially in regards to like the coaching, the supplements, and how you've structured it, what's working for you, and give people a real insight into how you've grown so fast and grown at levels beyond, what most other people would consider normal.
Yeah. So, I mean, with my start, I really started building my sort of thesis on fitness and my angle, looking like a movie star and the 3 days a week, the fasting, right? And so I built this huge cult-like following, and I created specific programs to achieve a certain body type for fat loss, for muscle growth, Greek God, so on and so forth. And we sold hundreds of thousands of these programs at the peak. Like, it was nuts. And there were $47 programs. I would go to the gym, I'd walk down the street, and I'd meet someone that did aggressive fat loss, Greek God. Like, it was nonstop. This rippled through, right? And there was a lot of fitness programs out there that did big numbers, but like, no one, you would never see the transformations. Like, where are these transformations? Because their programs were bullshit. I had so many incredible before and afters, like so many coming in, like there's too many to post. It was just nuts. Like it genuinely made a massive difference. I would meet a beautiful girl, and her ex-boyfriend got ripped on it. Like, it was everywhere, especially from the ages of 20 to like 35. So then, that went really, really well. And then at 27, I built up I built some resources, and then I had fun being like, hey, you know what? What's the next step now? And I realized that I could source out a high quality manufacturer and create a cool pre-workout, something that didn't have artificial sweeteners, that had the exact doses and ingredients I wanted, because there wasn't really something on the market that I liked. And then so I tested some stuff and worked for a few months on kind of crafting the formula, and finally got to like a freaking, like I got the products in, and I was like buzzing. I was like, this is awesome. I feel euphoric. I'm getting a couple more reps on my last set in the gym. I feel really, really good. And we launched that, and the Keynote Warriors love the Octane, and then over the years, I've worked on some different formulas, and now really what I do is I just create very specific, powerful supplement formulas for a goal, and now the supplements have been blowing up, and we have like, and this is like the powerful thing was that if someone does a program, right? They buy. This was the issue with my business, was that someone would do a program, they'd spend $47, and they would transform, and they would just love me, but that was it. They spent $47, they got the dream outcome, and amazing, right? So like, it was like, how do I grow? Like, I've hit this market so hard. They've gone in really, like I literally had a marketing team was telling me like, the challenge is that everyone, like they buy your program, they get the result, and then what's left, right? So that said, when I did a lot more research and I looked at, okay, who's having the best transformations? Where am I getting the top transformations? And where are these people, it's taking them longer to get to the end outcome, or they get a little bit stuck at the final outcome. And I was doing more blood work myself, and I was looking, and I noticed this phenomenon where guys that had higher levels of free testosterone, higher total testosterone, lower sex hormone binding globulin, it made it easier to transform. And then I started to dig, and this was a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I started to dig deeper and look at the average testosterone coming down. And so the next logical thing to solve was like, okay, we solved the training, the nutrition to get lean, get strong. The next thing we have to solve is helping guys get testosterone to where it should be, because that was a huge problem. If you have 400 total testosterone, 450, it's going to be harder to build an amazing body and have energy and ambition and a high libido than someone that's at 700 or 650. And so that was really cracking that code, and it worked with myself. I was in the 600s. One day I had a bad sleep. I tested my testosterone. It was actually as low as 510. that was with a bad sleep. So there's probably I would have assumed it would have been closer to 600, but it was as low as 510, and now 840. And I actually did another test, and funny enough, I was curious. I tested it with a bad sleep, and I had a low sleep for a couple days, and it was 680. When before I've had bad sleep, whatever. So it's like this stuff like the zinc, magnesium, boron, the tongethylene, right? The forskolite, the vitamin D3, K2, like this, it's just like it's giving your body what it needs to produce testosterone at a very, very high level. And so that became the next thing, and the mojo's gone freaking insane, and people take it every month. And I have like, it's like once you go on mojo, you don't want to go off. Once you feel like what your body's meant to feel, you don't want to go off. Here's an interesting thing. Why is sex more satisfying and exciting in the morning or earlier in the day, right? Like, it's kind of like, having sex at the end of the night. It's not as fun as imagine you're on vacation, you sleep in, you wake up. It's like earlier in the day is better. Testosterone peaks earlier in the day. And then as you go through the day, it tapers down. Yeah. And so when your testosterone is highest, right, sex is the most fun. Furthermore, if you can naturally raise your testosterone set point, it's like life just becomes better.
Yeah.
Going to the gym, here's one of the benefits of testosterone people don't talk about enough, is that I have sympathy for people that don't like to work out. Like, your testosterone's low. If you don't like working out, it's because and now you really need to work out, but when your testosterone levels are high, effort feels good. Lifting feels good. You want to work out. You feel like you're in a cage. You feel like a caged animal if you don't work out.
One of the things I loved that you said to me last night, the other night at dinner, was you've changed your sleeping hours from 12 till 8 in the morning rather than, say, go to bed at 8, wake up at 4 or 5 a.m.
Right.
Because then you can keep it congruent as you go through the weekends as well, which kind of really made me think that makes total sense.
Yeah, here's one of the biggest problems that I see. And I polled my audience, right? This is actually quite interesting because I hadn't talked about this before. So I'd say about 2/3 of people have a rotating sleep time where Monday to Friday, or Monday to Sunday to Thursday, whatever it is, they go to bed at a certain time, wake up at a certain time. Then on the weekends, they push it a few hours later. They stay up later, maybe they sleep in a bit later, right? So when do we produce the most testosterone? It's during sleep, right? Now, specifically, what sleep stage produces the most testosterone? So we know that 70% of your testosterone you produce on average is during sleep. Where you produce the most testosterone is during deep sleep, okay? Deep sleep happens in the earlier part of the sleep cycle, okay? And then REM is involved in the later point of the sleep cycle. Deep sleep is where you produce the most testosterone, you build muscle, right? Your body recovers. It's very important. REM is really good for, improving serotonin and dopamine, mental regulation, learning capability. When you get a lot of REM, you wake up feeling like, wow, I feel so alive, I'm reborn. But the deep is what makes you strong and gain muscle, and it actually helps reduce toxic waste. And so the challenge is that to get high amounts of deep sleep, you need a consistent sleep time. When you change it, you lose 35, 40% of your deep sleep. So let's say someone wakes up at 6 in the morning, okay? And then on Friday, they stay up later and they go to bed 3 hours later. They lose 35% of their sleep. The next night is thrown off. And then if they try and adjust back to their previous time, it's thrown off. So they're spending 3 days out of 7 days losing at least a third of their deep sleep. And so if you want to wake up early and go to bed early, you have to do that every single night. If you want to have any social life, okay, and you want to be able to go to a business dinner at 8 o'clock and then, socialize, then you don't want to wake up 5, 6 in the morning. It's a myth. And you can test this stuff. You can test your deep sleep. You can test your REM and stuff like that. So I experimented this in my 20s. So I had a period where I was going out a lot more, right? So I'd be going out on the weekends, okay? And I don't do this anymore, but I would literally go out I'd be up late, be up till 2 a.m. And so I just adjusted my sleep schedule. So I'd wake up at 10:30, 11 a.m. every single day. If I stayed in, I kept it identical every single day. And then my body was always getting deep sleep. It's the shifting back and forth that is brutal.
That fucks you, yeah.
It screws you up. And so the best thing to do is, let's say you have work at 9 a.m. If that means you're waking up at 8 in the morning or whatever it is, 7:38, it's better to wake up at the correct time that you have to than trying to get up a couple hours earlier if you're just going to flip back on the weekend. And it's really rough on the body to be changing it up. And now the only downside of this information is there are people that have schedules, maybe they're pilots, right? Maybe they work at hospitals and they have like this different shift work, and there's a cost to it. Like it is harder, you know. Like the best thing you can do is have a super blackout setup and aim to get your 7-8 hours, but it's definitely like it's not 100% optimal.
Yeah, no. And when you told me about this, I thought it kind of makes life a lot easier, especially when you've got the time like I have to be able to go, right, well, I can go to bed at 12 every night and I can wake up at 8 every morning because I've given myself that freedom. I think it makes life easier. I like to finish the podcast with this question because I think it allows you as the guest to really articulate the 1% thing that people can put in their lives to take from this podcast. But if there's one key piece of information, one thing you can just drop in this audience today that will take them 1% further forward in their life from this moment that they listen to this podcast, what would that be for you?
Let's say, get out of your house. Do this very soon. Drive an hour away, 30 minutes away, or go for a long walk, go to a park, and take a moment to just audit your life. Look at your life like if you're up in the sky, looking down at yourself. Where are you right now? Audit your life. Who are the people you're hanging out with? What do you do on the weekends, right? Well, try and get as clear, because a lot of times we don't audit our lives. We don't look at, the ROI of going out on the weekends to doing these things. What's the ROI of this? We must audit our life and then fix it. And so take time, and I try and do this. I learned this actually from a friend of mine that was very, very, very successful. He would just do these crazy audits. And I would just go in some ways I would be pretty focused, but in a lot of my life and even my social life, I would just be going through like a leaf in the wind, just, it is what it is. And then I'm like, okay, wait, why am I hanging out with this person? Why am I going out here? What would my dream life scenario look like? What is the ideal life I want to build? And so there's so many things in people's lives that have a terrible ROI. And yet they keep doing it because they're blind. And sometimes like the alcohol, the weed, a lot of these things, you're maybe not getting enough sleep. You're kind of like just a lifeless zombie going through life. You need to wake up, audit your life, and just craft your schedule, your weekends, the people you're in the most productive way possible.
I love that, mate. And I agree with you on every single level. I think the moment you can get real with yourself and implement some of those strategies that you've said that your dad taught you earlier on this podcast, and just start to have that self-belief, embody the audit that you've just said. Look at your testosterone levels if you're a man. Set your waking time, your awake time and your bedtime to something consistent. And just if you start to implement the different bits of advice that Greg's given you throughout this podcast, you'll take your life to a whole different level of being. So that is Gregor Gallagher, and I'm glad that you came on here today, brother, and dropped all that information. And guys, do me a solid favor, subscribe to this on every platform. And if you're in the UK or Australia, know that I'm out here on this US tour representing you on every level of the game. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Much love.
Hell yeah.